The storm started long before the thunder. It began inside the mansion. The DeLuca estate sat on the hill above the river, stone and glass and iron gates, a palace built on fear and money, lights glowing against the gray New Jersey sky. The city on the other side of the water, blinking like a distant threat. Inside the marble foyer looked like a museum, white floor, black veins, gold-framed paintings staring down a staircase sweeping up in a slow, elegant curve. Today that staircase was a battlefield. A crystal vase flew from the top step, shattering when it hit the floor, glass and water and white flowers exploding across the marble like frozen fireworks. The boy who threw it stood at the landing, small body, tight with rage, dark hair wild over his forehead, eyes bright and wet and furious. Nico DeLuca, 6 years old, only son of Lorenzo DeLuca, heir to a kingdom of shadows. His scream pounded against the high ceiling, echo after echo, until the chandeliers trembled. He grabbed another object from the hall table, a silver statue, his hand shaking as he held it over the edge. Do not let it drop, oh dear God, do not let it, the housekeeper whispered under her breath. The staff had formed a loose half circle near the bottom of the stairs, no one stepping closer, no one daring to touch the boy. A maid with pale hands held a towel to a cut on her forehead. She had already tried, she would not try again. Nico shouted for his mother, a name that no longer had an answer. Elena. The syllables rolled down the stairs like broken prayers. At the back of the group a woman stood very still, a dark uniform, a plain white apron, brown skin, warm eyes. Maya Holt, new in this world of polished stone and sharp silence. 2 days on the job, not enough time to learn all the rules, just enough to feel how much fear lived here. Mr. DeLuca hates noise, that was the first thing they told her. Does not like mess, does not like questions, does not like anyone touching his son. Maya watched the boy, saw the way his small chest heaved, the way his fingers clenched around the statue. He was not trying to be cruel, he was drowning. Upstairs at the far end of the west wing, Lorenzo DeLuca stared out the office window at the rain, a glass of untouched whiskey near his hand. The city lights blurred beyond the glass, a map of things he owned, things he controlled, things he had broken. He heard the vase before the echo reached him as sound. He felt it as a crack inside his skull, then the scream followed his son again. Vito stood near the door, broad shoulders, old eyes, the only man in the house allowed to speak without invitation. You want me to handle it, boss? Lorenzo did not turn at once. He saw a ghost in the glass, a woman laughing on the balcony last summer, a dress moving in the warm wind, a hand on his shoulder. Elena. The glass in his hand tilted, then stopped before it could fall. His control was that precise. No, I will handle it. He left the office, walked down the long hallway, dark wood, family portraits, men who never smiled, men who taught him that weakness was a sin. Nico screamed again, the sound sliced through the corridor. He moved faster in the foyer, the atmosphere tightened. Mr. DeLuca is coming. The whisper traveled from mouth to mouth like smoke. Back straightened, eyes dropped, every worker braced. This was not about a vase, never was. Nico raised the silver statue higher, tears streaking down his cheeks, his small voice cracking from the effort of shouting at a world that kept saying no. Maya felt something inside her that refused to stay still. She thought of her own little brother back in Atlanta, how he used to kick walls when their father disappeared for weeks, how her mother would say a screaming child is just a heart with no words. Her heart moved before her feet did. And then she saw herself stepping out of the line of staff, 1 step, 2, her flats making no sound on the marble. Selena, the housekeeper, hissed her name under her breath. Maya, no. She climbed the first stair, then the second, all eyes glued to her except Nico's. He was staring at the statue. The next thing he would throw, the next thing he hoped would shatter loud enough to bring his mother back. Maya stopped halfway up, not too close, not too far. Nico. He flinched at the sound of his own name spoken softly. You should stay down there, he shouted, voice raw like everyone else. I am tired of down there, Maya said. I am tired of watching you drown. He frowned, breathing hard, the statue wobbling in his grip. You do not tell me what to do. You just started here. I can get you kicked out maybe, she said, but you would still be standing there breaking your mother's favorite things, and she would still be gone. The words cut the air sharp and clean. Somebody gasped below. Nico's face crumpled for a second. He looked smaller, his arms sagging, the statue slipping lower. Do not say her name. I know what it feels like, Maya said, the urge to break something because you cannot break the pain. Her voice was not loud, but every person in the foyer heard it. Nico blinked, the tears threatening to fall again. He looked at the shattered vase on the floor, at the flowers dying where they lay. She hated those flowers. He whispered, they smell like the funeral home. Maya took another step up, slow and steady, never rushing a frightened animal, never rushing a frightened child. What did she like then? He swallowed, looked down at his bare feet on the cold wood of the landing. She liked the songs I played and the stories she told me about the sea, and when we sat on the stairs at night right there and watched the rain. Maya glanced at the window above, drops racing each other down the glass. She saw at the place where memory overlapped with this moment. I like rain too, she said. And I am very good at listening to stories. He stared at her, trying to decide if he believed her. Behind them a door opened at the top of the staircase. Lorenzo stepped into view, black suit, white shirt, tie loose at the throat, eyes like a storm that never moved on. The room froze, even the air seemed to stop. Nico saw him, his Face twisted again, anger rushing back in like a tide. You are late, he shouted. You are always late. Lorenzo moved down the steps, each footfall measured, controlled. The staff at the bottom bowed their heads. No one spoke. Put it down, Nico. The boy's hands tightened around the statue. No. Maya watched the distance shrink between father and son. She saw the heat building under Lorenzo's skin, a different kind of storm. He reached the landing, stood one step below his son. Towering over him, the statue hovered above the fall. You will put it down now. The boy shook his head so hard his hair whipped his forehead. You cannot make me, you cannot make her come back. His small voice cracked on the last word, shaking in the air. Lorenzo lifted his hand, not yet a strike, but close. The staff downstairs squeezed their eyes shut. They had seen that hand move, had seen the aftermath. Maya moved without thinking. 1 second she was 3 steps below, the next she was between them, her body a line of defense that should not exist. The mansion inhaled. She faced the man everyone feared, looked up into his eyes, felt the weight of his power, the danger in his stillness, and did not step away. If you hit him, she said, you will not calm him, you will not fix this, you will only teach him to be you. A crack went through the room, not in the marble, in the rules. No one spoke to Lorenzo De Luca like that. No one stood between him and his anger. No one. His gaze dropped to her face, dark skin, steady eyes, no ring on her finger, no tremor in her stance. Who are you? Maya Holt, she said. The woman your staff hired to clean up everything but this. Nico blinked at her back. The statue heavy in his hands. Move aside, Lorenzo said. This is family business. She shook her head. He is a child, she said, and his heart is broken. Your business can wait. Her voice never rose, but every word hit like a blow. Lorenzo's hand hovered in the air, suspended between habit and something unfamiliar. In that brief pause, Maya turned her head just enough to see Nico. Hey, little man. His eyes filled again. What? You are stronger than this staircase. Stronger than that vase, stronger than a statue. She held out her hand to him, palm up. Steady. Give it to me, and I will give you something back. What? My promise, she said, that I will not leave you alone with this storm. His lower lip shook. The statue trembled in his grip, his small chest rising and falling. He looked at his father, at the glass on the floor, at the woman who stood between them like a shield. No one ordered into place. You cannot promise that, he whispered. I just did. For a long heartbeat nothing moved. Then, slow as the turning of a tide, Nico lowered the statue, placed it in her hand. His fingers brushed her palm, warm and shaking. The foyer exhaled. Maya knelt right there on the landing, bringing herself to his height. She set the statue down on the step carefully, like it mattered. Touch your chest, she said. He frowned. Why? Just do it. He pressed his small hand against his ribs. Feel that beat. He nodded. Breathe in with it, not against it. She put her own hand over her heart, matching his rhythm, slower, steadier. In out and out. His breathing followed, hitching at first, then smoothing. The red in his face fading, his shoulders loosening under invisible weight. Down below, the staff watched with wide eyes. They had tried doctors, pills, expensive specialists. Nothing had quieted the boy like this. Lorenzo watched, as if someone had ripped the floor from under him. His son, the storm of his house, standing there with his hand on his chest, eyes closed, calming, because a stranger told him to. Elena used to do that, he thought. Sit with Nico during thunder, teach him to breathe with the noise, not against it. Maya opened her eyes, looked back at Lorenzo. Now, she said softly, if you want to help, you sit with him, not over him. The words tasted like blasphemy in this house, yet no one dared to rebuke her. Lorenzo studied her, a man measuring a new kind of weapon, not built of steel or fire, but something far more dangerous in his world, mercy. He lowered his raised hand, the fingers curling into a fist, then, relaxing at his side. Vito, at the bottom of the stairs, stared up, waiting for the explosion that did not come. After a long quiet moment, Lorenzo stepped past Maya and sat on the step beside his son, not above him, not towering, just there. Nico opened his eyes, surprised. He glanced at his father, then at Maya. Are you going to yell? Lorenzo shook his head once. No. Are you mad? Yes. At me? No. Then at who? Myself. The admission fell like another piece of broken crystal, soft and sharp and impossible. Maya watched them, father and son, side by side, the distance between them no longer measured in stares. Her knees began to ache against the wood, but she did not move. For the first time since Elena died, there was no screaming in the mansion, only rain against the windows and 3 hearts learning a new rhythm in the same space. Downstairs, Selena crossed herself, whispered under her breath, this girl is going to save or destroy us all. When the silence had stretched enough, Lorenzo looked up at Maya. Everyone out. His voice was low, controlled. No one argued. The staff scattered, boots soft on marble, doors closing one after another. Only 3 people remained on the staircase, a grieving boy, a dangerous man, and the maid who had dared to stand between them. Lorenzo met her gaze again. You just broke every rule in my house. Maya straightened her back. Maybe your rules were the problem. For a brief moment, something like laughter tried to break through his mask, but never quite made it. Come to my office in 1 hour, he said. Do not be late. He rose, lifted Nico into his arms. The boy clung to his neck, face buried in his shoulder. Maya watched them disappear down the hallway, her pulse pounding, her mind finally catching up to what her body had done. She looked at the shattered vase on the floor, the flowers wilting in a pool of water, and understood with one touch, with one choice, she had just changed everything in the De Luca mansion. The house did not calm, it only held its breath. After the staircase incident, the staff moved like ghosts, eyes down, hands trembling, avoiding the spot Where Maya had stood, no one dared speak her name, no one dared admit what she had done. In the kitchen, pots clattered quietly and whispers flickered like candle flames. Mrs. Russo stirred a pot of sauce that had been simmering since sunrise, her hands shaking just enough to ripple the surface. That girl is finished, she muttered. Not fired, no buried. Maya stood at the sink, rinsing glass shards off her hands, the tiny cut stinging from the cold water, her heart beating too loud in her ears. She had grown up fighting for her siblings, fighting landlords, fighting life, but this felt like stepping in front of a moving train. Still, she did not regret it. The staircase had held two storms, one small, one huge, and she stepped between them because what else was she supposed to do? Watch a child break under the weight of his father's silence. She wrapped her hand in a small towel, turned off the faucet, and breathed the kitchen air thick with fear and garlic and judgment. Mrs. Russo looked around to make sure no one was listening, then leaned close. Maya, you should run, you should pack now, get out before he calls you up there. Mr. DeLuca does not tolerate interference, especially not with the boy. Maya dried her hands slowly, her voice a whisper. He told me to come to his office. Mrs. Russo froze, the spoon dropped against the pot, a sharp metallic sound. Child, she whispered, you have no idea what that means. Maya's throat tightened. I stood up for his son. I did not do anything wrong. Sometimes, Mrs. Russo said softly, doing the right thing is the most dangerous thing in this house. The clock above the stove clicked to the half hour. 30 minutes to face the man everyone feared. Maya left the kitchen, walked the long hallway, past old portraits of people with dead eyes, past statues that looked too judgmental, past men in suits who pretended not to stare. She wandered for a moment, unsure where to go, her nerves rattling under her skin. The mansion hummed like a place that breathed like it was watching her. She found herself drifting to the music room. The door was cracked open, a faint dusty smell inside. She slipped in quietly. The room was warm from the afternoon sun rays spilling across a grand piano. Photos lined the top, a woman smiling in every one. Elena, she was striking, dark waves of hair, elegant posture, a softness around the eyes. Maya approached the picture, studying the smile shared by both mother and son, the curve of the lips identical, the tilt of the head, the dimple on the left. Nico had that dimple too, a small reminder he would always carry. She reached out and touched the edge of a frame, whispering, you left too soon. A small hum of air brushed past her. She turned sharply. Nico stood at the door, his hair still damp from tears, clutching a small blue blanket. He stepped into the room, looked at Maya, then at the piano. My mom played for me, he said quietly, her heart squeezed. She sat at the piano bench, patted the seat beside her. Wanna show me? He hesitated, then walked over, slowly climbed onto the bench, his feet dangling above the floor. His small fingers hovered above the keys, then pressed one. A soft note filled the space, fragile and lonely. Maya pressed a key too, a note deeper, warmer. Nico looked at her. You know piano? No, she said, but I know how to listen. For the first time since she met him, he smiled, small, shy, real. They played random notes, no melody, just the sound of two broken hearts trying to talk. Behind them, a tall shadow filled the doorway. Lorenzo stood silent, watching them, one hand still gripping the edge of the frame above the door, as if he needed something solid to hold on to. He did not enter, he did not speak. His face softened only for a second, then hardened again as he turned away. Maya swallowed, followed the movement with her eyes, felt the weight of that moment settle into her bones. She glanced at the clock on the wall. 10 minutes left. Maya rose from the bench. Nico grabbed her sleeve. Will you come back? After she knelt beside him, their faces level. I will, I promise. His fingers loosened, trust threaded through his silence, a fragile thread but real. Maya stepped out of the music room, her steps slow and steady as she walked toward the office wing. The hall leading to the office felt colder, the walls darker, the floors shinier, like they were polished for intimidation. Two guards stood outside the door, expressionless, muscles hidden under black suits. They did not speak. One simply knocked twice. A low voice answered, send her in. The door opened. Maya stepped inside. The office was enormous, shelves of leather-bound books, a fireplace with dying embers, a desk made from a single slab of walnut, and behind it Lorenzo DeLuca. He sat in his chair like a man carved out of shadow, broad shoulders relaxed but ready, dark hair slicked back, sleeves rolled to the elbows, tattoos peeking from under his shirt, eyes sharp as blades. He did not speak, just watched her. Maya stood still, back straight, hands together, trying not to show how her pulse hammered. Finally, he exhaled, a slow, deliberate release. You touched my son. His voice calm, deep, smooth, a voice that could command armies. She nodded once. Yes, you stepped between us. Another nod. Yes, you spoke to me on the staircase. Her chest tightened. Yes. He leaned back, spread his fingers on the desk, the muscles in his jaw shifting. No one, Lorenzo said, has spoken to me like that since my wife died. Maya kept her breathing steady. I did what Nico needed. His eyes narrowed, as if weighing her, measuring the shape of her truth. You think you understand what my son needs? I understand grief, she said quietly, and I understand a hurting child. His gaze sharpened dangerously, like she had touch something she shouldn't have. Careful, Maya Holt, but she did not back down. Someone has to be. The air between them tightened, the kind of tension that fills a room before thunder. Lorenzo rose slowly, walked around the desk, stood in front of her close enough she could smell the faint cologne, something dark, spiced, expensive. He studied her face, every detail, every tremor she failed to hide. You broke my rules, he said. I know you embarrassed me in front of my staff. I know you made my son calm for the first time in months. She blinked, soft surprise warming her chest. He continued, you think I should punish you? Maya opened her mouth, but he lifted a hand silencing her. No, punishment is not what you deserve. He stepped closer, his voice dropping lower. What you did today, no doctor, no therapist, no soldier of mine has been able to do. He paused. So I am giving you a new position. She frowned, confused. A new live-in caretaker for Nico, full authority over him, his routines, over anyone who tries to tell you otherwise. Her heart pounded hard. Live-in authority. This was not a promotion, it was a sentence, but his next words froze the air inside her lungs. And you will answer only to me. Maya stared at him, wondering how her life had changed so suddenly, so violently, how a child's scream had dragged her to the center of a world built on blood and silence. Lorenzo's tone softened just barely. Do you accept? She did not trust her voice, so she nodded. Good, he said, because whether you know it or not today, you became part of this family's story. He stepped back, and for the first time Maya saw something in his eyes she had never expected, gratitude mixed with fear, mixed with something older and far more dangerous. He gestured toward the door. Go to your room. You will move into the north wing near Nico's. She turned to leave, her hand just touching the doorknob when his voice stopped her. Maya, she looked back. What you did on those stairs? He paused, a crack appearing in his armor. It was unthinkable. Their eyes held a line drawn in silence, a warning or a beginning or both. Maya stepped out of the office, the door closing behind her. Her heartbeat echoing down the hallway. She had walked into this mansion as a maid. Now she walked its halls as something far more dangerous, the woman who tamed the son of the Mafia King, and the woman the Mafia King could no longer take his eyes off. The mansion slowly changed, and everyone felt it before anyone admitted it. The silence that once ruled the halls softened. The shadows felt less hungry, even the air seemed to breathe easier. Since Maya moved into the north wing, she woke with the sunrise every morning, her room modest but warm, sunlight spilling through tall windows, walls still holding the echo of lives lived before her. She dressed quietly, tied her apron, slipped into soft shoes, and walked down the corridor toward Nico's room. Every morning she found him sitting on the floor surrounded by toys. He never touched, a blanket wrapped around him like armor, his hair messy, his eyes tired. She always knocked once gently, then opened the door slowly. Hey little man, she would whisper, you ready for today? Some days he nodded, some days he did not, but he always let her into the room, which was more than he allowed anyone else. They built routines, small ones, fragile ones, breakfast together on the balcony, his hand in hers when nightmares woke him in the night, quiet walks through the garden behind the mansion where the trees swayed like they were listening. She learned the ways he calmed, sometimes by touching the bark of the old oak, sometimes by hearing water run, sometimes by sitting in silence while she read aloud from the books his mother used to keep beside her bed. The first time she read to him, he curled against her side without warning, his breathing evening out. Over time she felt him trust her the way tired hearts trust light, and Lorenzo watched all of it from a distance. Always from a distance he would appear at the top of a staircase or in the doorway, leaning against the frame, his expression unreadable, something heavy always sitting behind his dark eyes. He did not approach them during these moments, but Maya could feel him there like a storm waiting to decide whether to strike or rain gently. She ignored him when she could, but the truth was she felt him more than she should. She felt the house react to him the way Nico reacted to thunder. Days stretched into weeks, routines solidifying into something else, something the staff whispered about. At night they saw the shifts in the DeLuca world. They saw how Nico clung less to his grief, how he laughed once or twice and that laugh traveled like sunlight through the house. They saw how Lorenzo's footsteps softened when he approached the north wing, how he looked for Maya before looking for anyone else. One afternoon Maya sat with Nico in the garden, the boy stacking stones by the fountain, building a tower with serious concentration, the air warm, the scent of lemon trees drifting through the breeze. Nico was quiet, unusually calm. Maya watched him gently. You are doing great today, she said. He shrugged. I like the water, it sounds like Mama's necklace. His voice caught. She reached over, touched his shoulder lightly. Do you want to talk about her? He shook his head. Maybe later. Maya nodded. No pressure, little man. When you are ready. The sound of footsteps came from behind, strong, confident, familiar. Lorenzo walked into the garden, hands in his pockets, hair pushed back by the wind. He looked tired but less haunted than weeks before. Maya straightened slightly but did not stand. She had learned standing made Nico tense. Lorenzo's eyes flicked to her, then to his son. How is he today? He asked. Steady, Maya said. Building towers. Lorenzo watched his son for a moment, the quiet pride in his gaze too soft for a man like him. Then he turned to Maya. I need to speak with you. Nico looked up instantly, his small voice sharp. No, she stays. Lorenzo frowned. Nico, I just need a moment. No, Nico repeated, louder voice trembling. She stays. Maya placed a hand on his back. It is okay, I am not going far, but His eyes filled too quickly. Maya leaned closer, whispered something only Nico could hear, and he nodded reluctantly. Lorenzo waited, watched the quiet magic of her presence, the way she could calm storms with a whisper. When Maya finally stood, Lorenzo gestured for her to walk with him. They moved to the far corner of the garden where the lemon trees grew thick, the air heavy with citrus. He stopped beside a stone bench, crossed his arms over his chest, looked at Maya with an intensity that made her pulse trip. "You have changed my house," he said. She blinked, not sure if that was praise or accusation. "I did not mean to," she said quietly. "I only wanted to help your son." Lorenzo shook his head. "No, you did more than help him. He has not slept through the night since his mother died. Until you came, he eats now. He laughs sometimes. He breathes differently when you are near." Maya swallowed, the weight of his words heavy and warm. "I am glad I can help," she said. Lorenzo stepped closer, not touching but close enough that she could feel the heat of him. "You are doing something to him," he said, "something no one else could." Maya frowned, confused. "Doing what?" "Healing him," he said quietly. "And that scares me more than anything." She looked at him, really looked at him without fear for the first time. Lorenzo De Luca, the man who could make city blocks kneel through reputation alone, the man who lost the one person who softened him, the man who had never learned to grieve properly. His shoulders were squared, but the vulnerability underneath was unmistakable. Maya asked softly, "Why does healing scare you?" "Because healing makes him love again," Lorenzo said, "and love makes him a target." Maya's heart twisted. She understood now. The extra guards at night, the increased security, the men watching the garden from the balcony. "You think someone might try to hurt him?" she said. "Someone already tried," Lorenzo answered. Maya stiffened. "What do you mean?" He hesitated, then said, "Weeks before you came, an enemy sent men to grab him. One night they broke in through the south wing, tried to take him from his room." Nico screamed and they ran, but the message was clear. "They know he is my weakness." Maya felt the world tilt slightly, fear wrapping itself around her ribs. "And now," he said, eyes dark as shadows, "you have become part of that weakness." The leaves rustled overhead, the air thick with warning. Maya forced her voice steady. "I will protect him." Lorenzo nodded slowly. "I know you will, Maya, but protection is not what scares me." He paused, then spoke softly. "You are making him strong again, and that means anyone who wants to destroy me will come for you too." Maya felt her pulse race, but she did not step back. Instead she asked, "Is that why you called me here, to warn me?" Lorenzo shook his head. "No, I called you here because you need to understand something important." He stepped closer, voice dropping lower. "My son needs you. And because he needs you, you are not a maid in this house anymore. You are essential." The word hit her harder than any threat. Essential. She opened her mouth to answer, but the garden gate slammed open. Both turned sharply. Vito rushed toward them, face tight, jaw clenched, eyes blazing. He looked at Lorenzo first. "We have a problem, boss, a serious one." Lorenzo moved forward. "What happened?" Vito jerked his head toward the mansion. "Someone was watching the kid from the tree line." Maya's heart jolted. "Nico?" Lorenzo swore under his breath. "Where is he?" Vito said, "Celia has him in the kitchen safe." They all hurried back inside, Maya practically running the corridors, a blur, her mind roaring. What if? What if when she burst into the kitchen, Nico was sitting on the counter, swinging his legs, eating a cookie, Celia beside him? Maya exhaled so hard her knees weakened. Nico waved at her. "Hey Maya, got a cookie?" She stepped closer, brushed his hair back, nodded gently. "That is good, baby." Lorenzo and Vito entered right behind her, the staff tense, eyes flicking from face to face. Celia whispered, "He was right outside the gate watching the boy. We could feel it." Maya looked at Lorenzo and saw the truth in his eyes. Fear, not for himself but for the small boy and for the woman who had become part of that fear. Lorenzo's voice dropped into something lethal. "Tighten security. No one enters or leaves without my approval. Double the guards on the north wing and the garden." He looked directly at Maya, then at Nico, then back at Maya again, something shifting in his expression, something that felt like a door opening. "Stay close to him," he said quietly. "Do not let him out of your sight." The next words came softer than anything she had heard from him. "You are the only one he trusts." Maya felt her heart pound against her ribs. She knew this moment changed something deeper than roles or duties, something intangible but real. She nodded. "I will protect him." And Lorenzo believed her, because for the first time since his world shattered, there was someone he trusted with the one thing he could not afford to lose. The days after the man was seen near the gate twisted the air inside the mansion into something heavier. The walls seemed to listen, the guards moved like shadows, and every window felt like an eye. Maya kept Nico close. He never left her reach. She brushed his teeth with him. She tied his shoelaces. She held his hand. Even inside the house, the boy sensed the weight in the rooms. He looked over his shoulder more. He clung to her shirt. When a guard passed, he told her quietly, "I do not like the way the man looked at me." Maya squeezed his hand. "I will not let anything happen to you, little man, I promise." Lorenzo watched them constantly. He appeared like a breath at the end of every hall. Sometimes he pretended he was only checking security. Sometimes he did not pretend at all. His eyes always found Nico, then stayed on Maya a moment too long. There were nights when Nico crawled into Maya's bed whispering. He could not sleep because he dreamed of doors opening and footsteps in the dark, and she held him in her arms, humming soft, steady sounds like her mother used to sing in the warm Georgia Nights. Lorenzo once passed by her room, saw the light under the door, paused, his hand hovering over the wood wanting to knock, but he walked away instead, his footsteps slow, quiet, too heavy for a man used to silence. One morning Nico woke, shaking, his voice small. I dreamed the man took you, he said. Maya pulled him against her chest, her eyes burning. No one is taking me, or you understand, she said. We stay safe because we stay together, but danger does not. Knock politely, danger waits until you are breathing easy, then it rises. The warning came late afternoon when they were returning from the doctor. Nico had a checkup and for once behaved perfectly, his hand in Maya's the whole time, even laughing when she made faces at him in the car. The sun was going down, orange and gold, the sky wide open. When Vito drove them back toward the mansion, Maya felt at first a sharp tug in her chest, like a thread being pulled from far away. Vito felt it too, his shoulders stiff, his hand tightening on the wheel. Something is wrong. He slowed the car just enough to scan the road. Maya leaned forward, Nico curled asleep in her lap. Then the world cracked open. A black SUV shot out from a side road, its windows tinted, its engine roaring. Vito swore, slammed on the brakes. Maya pulled Nico tight against her body. The SUV skidded across the pavement, blocking the path. Another SUV swung in behind them, cutting off escape. Vito shouted, get down. The doors on the first SUV flew open. 3 men jumped out, guns glinting in the dying light. Maya covered Nico with her body. Vito fired back through the windshield, the crack of gunshots slicing the air. Nico jerked awake and screamed. Maya grabbed his face. Look at me, little man, look at me. Keep your head down. The men advanced fast, too fast. Vito shouted, we cannot hold this position, boss is on the way, but he will not reach us in time. Maya's breath shattered inside her chest. She looked at Nico, trembling, tiny fingers gripping her shirt with all the strength he had. She looked at Vito, bleeding from his arm. And then she understood something sharp, terrible, true. They were not here for Vito, they were not here for her, they were here for the boy, and if they failed they would kill everyone in the car. A man reached the door, grabbing the handle, tearing at it. Vito yelled, Maya, go out the back, run, take the boy. Maya looked at Nico's terrified eyes, the shaking in his small body, the way he whispered, Maya, do not let them take me. She made her decision in the space of one heartbeat. She kissed his forehead, held his cheeks, looked into his eyes with all the love she had in her body and said, listen to me, Nico, I am going to keep you safe, but you need to be brave like the stories your mama told you. Do you trust me? The boy nodded, tears mixing with fear. I trust you. The back door behind her popped open, another man aiming at the car. Maya looked around fast. The road was empty, the guardrail bent, the cliffs below steep. She had no escape except one choice, one impossible, unthinkable choice. She placed Nico in Vito's lap. Strap him, Vito, strap him now. Vito hesitated. Maya, no, strap him. He obeyed, her hands shaking, locking Nico into the back seat. The man outside the door shouted, open up, we want the kid. Maya turned, looked at Nico one last time, her eyes burning, her voice soft, you will live, you hear me, you will live. She slipped out of the car, slammed the door behind her, and raised her hands. The men froze, surprised. The tallest one smirked, you the maid, where is the kid? She swallowed hard, breathing in smoke and dust. I am the one you want, not him. What? I am the one he cares about. Now you want to hurt Lorenzo De Luca, you take me. The man's expression changed, greed and calculation flickered across his face. Grab her, he ordered, not the kid, her. Lorenzo will bleed more if we take the woman. Vito inside the car shouted a no, but Maya stood still, letting the men bind her hands, her heart pounding so hard she felt dizzy. One man radioed someone, the target acquired, the boss will want this one alive. A third SUV screeched onto the road before the men could shove her inside, before Maya could take another breath, before the sun fully dipped behind the trees. Lorenzo De Luca stepped out of the vehicle like a storm, breaking bones, his hair wild from the speed of the drive, his suit jacket thrown off somewhere on the highway, eyes dark enough to burn the sky. He saw the men, saw the gun, saw the open car door, saw the fear in his son's face behind the glass. And then he saw Maya, hands tied, tear tracks on her cheeks, blood on her arm. Something inside him snapped. He did not shout, he did not threaten, he did not negotiate. He killed the first man before the others finished turning their heads. A shot, a scream, a body hitting pavement. Chaos exploded all at once. Vito burst from the car, shooting through pain. Men dove for cover, more trucks arrived. Lorenzo moved like violence given human shape, every motion precise, brutal, unstoppable. Maya ducked as gunfire ripped the air. The man holding her shoved her toward the SUV, yelling, we take her now. Lorenzo saw it. He roared Maya's name, the sound tearing from his throat like something that had lived caged too long. He fired, missed the man by an inch. The man dragged her backward, her feet digging into the pavement, her voice shaking. Lorenzo, another shot, another scream. And then silence again. When Lorenzo reached her, she was on her knees, rope cutting into her wrists, breath coming in broken little gasps. He dropped to the ground in front of her, his hands shaking as he cut the bindings, his eyes wild, his voice a low growl. What were you thinking? She whispered the words like a confession. They wanted the boy, I could not let them take him. Lorenzo grabbed her face in both hands, his forehead pressing against hers, his breath shaking with rage and terror. And something deeper. Maya, if they had taken you, I would have burned half the state. He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tight she felt the tremor in his chest. Behind them Nico sobbed, Maya, Maya. She opened her eyes, saw him struggling in his seat, Vito helping him out. She reached for him, he ran into her arms burying his face against her neck, his little body shaking. I thought they would take you, he cried. I thought they would take you away from me. Maya kissed the top of his head. Never. Little man Lorenzo stood above them staring down at the two people. He almost lost in 1 hour, his jaw clenched, his hands bloody, his heart exposed in a way that terrified him more than any gun. He said one sentence that changed everything from that moment on. You both stay with me from now on. Neither of you will ever face danger alone again. The night swallowed, the road sirens echoed in the distance, the DeLuca world shifted, and the unthinkable was no longer what Maya had done but what Lorenzo had realized. He could not lose either of them. The aftermath of the ambush did not fade quickly. It settled over the mansion like heavy fog, creeping into corners, soaking into walls, refusing to leave. The guards doubled the gate, patrolled the halls, buzzing with urgency. Every shadow was checked twice, every window locked, every door reinforced, but none of that was what truly changed the DeLuca world. What changed it was Lorenzo. After that night, he never let Maya or Nico out of his sight. Every morning, he walked with them. When Maya took Nico to the garden every afternoon, he sat nearby pretending to read, but his eyes always scanning the tree line. Every evening, he checked their rooms himself before he went to bed, and sometimes long after. Vito noticed it first, the way the boss lingered, the way he watched Maya like she was something priceless, something he could not afford to lose, the way his voice softened when she entered a room, the way Nico clung to her hand and to his father's jacket at the same time, forming a triangle no one dared break. The whole house felt it, and for the first time since Elena died, the mansion felt alive again. But safety built on fear is never permanent, and somewhere far from the mansion, far from the lemon trees, far from the piano room with its dust and memories, Salvatore Marino sat in a dim office staring at photos, one of Maya, one of Nico, one of Lorenzo, standing between them like a shield. A cruel smile curled across his mouth. So this is the weakness. The lion found a mate without knowing it, and the cub likes her too much. Good. He whispered a single order: we take the woman, not the boy. The woman hurts him more, and the world began turning toward war. Back at the mansion, Maya did not know any of this. She only felt the tension building in Lorenzo, the way his jaw clenched at odd moments, the way he touched Nico's shoulder every time the boy walked into a new room, the way he always checked the windows behind her. She confronted him one evening in the study, Nico asleep in the next room, candles burning low. You are scaring him. Maya set her voice steady. And yourself? Lorenzo stood near the window, hands in his pockets, the night city glowing behind him. You should leave, he said quietly. Maya's heart dropped into her stomach. Leave? He looked at her finally, and she saw exhaustion carved into him like stone, the kind of tired that only comes from love mixed with fear. You almost died because of me, he said, and the words felt like gravel in his throat. You are a target now. I cannot protect you forever. Maya, she stepped closer, shaking her head. You do not get to decide what I am willing to risk. He turned to her, eyes dark, troubled. You do not understand my world. Then explain it, she demanded. He moved before thinking, closing the distance between them until he was inches away, his voice low, raw. My world kills what I love. Every time, Maya, every single time. The confession cracked something open inside him, because Lorenzo DeLuca did not admit weakness, not even to himself. Maya lifted a hand, hesitated, then touched his jaw gently, a touch soft enough to break a kingdom. I am not leaving, she whispered. I stay for Nico. And he exhaled like the sound hurt. And for you. Lorenzo's eyes closed for a brief, beautiful moment, her words hitting him like truth. He was not ready, for he leaned into her touch for one heartbeat, just one, but that heartbeat changed everything. The next day, everything changed again. It happened at dusk, the sky bruised purple, the guards distracted by a delivery at the gate, a truck no one recognized until too late. Grenades exploded against the sidewall, smoke filling the courtyard. Inside the mansion, chaos erupted, shouts, boots, gunfire. Maya was in Nico's room reading to him when she heard the first blast. The windows rattled, books fell from the shelves. Maya froze for only half a breath, then grabbed Nico. We go now. The hallway shook with distant explosions. She carried Nico pressed tight against her chest, his small arms around her neck trembling. The guard shouted orders, running past her. North wing compromised. Move the kid, move. Vito appeared at the top of the stairs, blood on his forehead. Maya, this way, hurry. But as they descended the staircase, two masked men burst through the side door, guns raised. Maya threw herself over Nico, but before they could fire, two shots cracked clean, precise. Lorenzo, he moved like rage given shape, taking down the men before their bodies hit the floor. He grabbed Maya's arm, pulling her behind him, his voice shaking. Go to the basement, panic room now. They ran together, Nico crying, gripping Maya like she was the only safe place left in the world. But the basement corridor exploded in dust and debris, Marino's men flooding the space from the back entrance, trapping them between two lines of fire. Lorenzo shoved Maya and Nico into a narrow servant's passage, a hidden corridor behind the walls lit by old yellow bulbs just wide enough for one adult and a child. He blocked the entrance With his body gun drawn, eyes burning, go, he growled. I will hold them back. Maya shook her head, breathless, desperate. You cannot, you will die. He met her gaze and for the first time let her see the truth. He would die for them, she whispered. Lorenzo, but he did not move, just pressed the small of his hand against her cheek, a brief trembling touch. Take care of my son, please. Maya. Nico screamed at him. Dad, come with us, please. Dad. Lorenzo's face broke. The kind of break that shatters a man forever. I am right behind you now. Go, go. Vito grabbed Maya's arm, dragging her down the passage, the hidden door slamming shut, Lorenzo's silhouette disappearing behind wood and dust, the sounds behind them, gunfire, shouting, chaos swallowing the man she had come to love in a way she had not dared admit. Maya ran, tears streaming, Nico shaking in her arms, until Vito shoved open the last door leading to the panic room. They entered, metal walls, reinforced door, sealed, air safe. But Maya's heart was not safe, her hands shaking so violently she could barely set Nico down for minutes, hours maybe. There was nothing but silence, then footsteps, familiar, heavy. The door opened and Lorenzo stepped inside, alive, covered in dust, blood on his shirt, breathing hard. Maya dropped to her knees, a sob breaking through her chest. Nico ran to him. Lorenzo caught his son and sank to the floor, holding him like a lifeline, his other arm wrapped around Maya, pulling her into him. A small broken family, made whole again in the middle of war. After that night nothing was the same. Marino was taken down. Lorenzo reshaped his empire, cut ties, ended alliances, shifted his power toward legitimate business, slower money, cleaner hands, because of Nico, because of her months past healing, slow and real. Nico slept through the night, laughed more. Maya stayed by his side, and Lorenzo, who once lived in shadows, found himself standing in sunlight more often than not. One late afternoon in the garden where everything began, Lorenzo watched Maya helping Nico pick lemons from the tree, Nico giggling, Maya smiling softly, a rare soft smile. He approached them. Nico ran off with a basket of lemons, leaving them alone. Lorenzo looked at Maya, his voice soft. I never thanked you. You do not need to. Yes, I do. He said, you saved my son. You saved me. She lowered her gaze, but he touched her chin, gently lifting it. Maya, he whispered, do you know what you did the night you stood between me and danger, or the day you stood between me and my own anger, or the moment you chose to die so Nico could live? She shook her head, her breath catching. You became the courage this family never had. Lorenzo stepped closer, his forehead nearly touching hers. And I have fallen in love with you. The words trembled through her like truth too heavy to hold. Tears filled her eyes. She whispered, I love you too. Nico's voice called from the other side of the garden. Maya, help, I dropped a lemon. They laughed quietly. Lorenzo brushed a tear from her cheek, then kissed her, a slow warm kiss that felt like healing, like home. In that moment the mansion did not feel haunted, it felt like a place where light could grow again. Maya Holt, the woman who walked into a house of shadows, the woman who calmed a broken boy, the woman who stood between a mafia king and death itself, became something unthinkably rare, the heart of the DeLuca family, and the beginning of a new dynasty built not on fear but on love. Thank you for watching this emotional story of courage and sacrifice. If Maya and Lorenzo's journey touched you, tell us where you are watching from in the comments, what country or city. Your support helps us keep these stories alive. Remember, sometimes the smallest act of bravery can change everything. See you in the next story.